You're live. Hello, and this is Ninja JDC, joining again for another podcast after a little bit of a break, right before summer break. Joining me again is, going for my random Skype order, Jenn.
I may be first. I may be last. I may be struggling for a catchphrase at the moment, but I am first and always Jenn. Hello, Internet.
Hello to you too, Jen.
The Internet speaks back. When you stare into the Internet, the Internet can only speak back.
It's an entire abyss from it.
It is. It's like the void. When you stare into the void stares back.
Mm-hmm.
Next up, second.
Hi there, this is the second opinion, and from a out of one break and into another, am I right?
Yes.
Then next up, Carlos.
Hello. This is the Dim Metal Gator here, just saying to you all, how do you do? How do you do? How do you have a great day?
Yep. I guess with that said, does anyone want to go first? We've been up to before.
I nominate Jen.
Oh, okay. All right. I'll go first. Okay. Well, what I've been up to lately, I've been working at my new job. I've been working some longer hours, so I'm insanely tired. I'm insanely tired for most of the day. It's like all of a sudden, it's like the job is taking over my mental space in my life. But hey, employment, right? You need months. Everybody's got to eat. Other than that, let's see. There, I've been still voicing on Elements of Justice. We just released episode 3-4. I get to play Luna in Elements of Justice, and Luna is back in this episode. It's a brand new case, and in a way, a brand new Luna. So if you love Ace Attorney, Turnabout Storm, you will love Elements of Justice, and if you're a fan of Luna, check her out. Let's see, that's about it. That's about all I've been up to.
As for me, I've sort of gotten addicted to a new manga series that's going to get an anime this summer. That being Red Ramen Cat. And let me just say, oh god, it's so good reading a story about cats. I I didn't know how interesting it would be. Just seeing like a bunch of cats running a ramen shop, and then it just keeps on going with just being like, oh, this is so slice of life, but I'm actually enjoying this. It's so I don't know. Maybe I became a cat person or something. But hey, I'm really enjoying all the accurate stuff going on, and then seeing not like world city plot, but like just seeing these many different cats have like many different backstories and such, like gathering together, and then just simply wanting to like work together to go above and beyond like their baser urges
Mm-hmm.
for sometimes just to like make a successful business. And then it's also nice seeing the biggest cat of them all is like an actual tiger that's working hard at the noodles.
Ooh.
Yeah, which her name is Krishna, and she's precious. She's like half Siberian tiger, half I think half like Asian tiger.
Oh, cute.
Yeah, it's like some of the most cutest like things you could ever see like a giant tiger be like for a story like this. And like the whole thing about it being like, oh yeah, this ramen shop, oh yeah, we're trying to keep it like as a sensible business so that it won't overwhelm our workers. So we
Oh,
have an entire media blackout. And I'm like, oh my god,
wow.
it's such an interesting premise for like a business, you know? You can't photograph, you can't take pictures or camera. It's like that thing is just word of mouth only.
Yeah, that's just a good thing. Like with anime mangas, like there's some just slice of life series that just slap. Especially how they basically sort of have a surreal like twist to them, where it's like something normal, like running in a cafe, like sort of like going with the cats. And it's just sort of like such a good charm of like anime. Like there's unique ideas.
Mm-hmm.
Shit. It makes me think of when we did the full Ghibli binge, including Ghibli before Ghibli, and we saw Miyazaki and Takahata's project where they'd been denied the Pippi Longstocking movie by the author, so they made this instead, basically 2 episodes of an anime that was never intended to become an anime. It was just a couple of short films about how they wanted, with the main character as they wanted to do Pippi Longstocking, but instead the plot is that a panda decides to not escape, just wander away from the zoo for a while. Just Panda and its kid want to derp-de-dur around for a while, and when they hear she's staying by herself, this slightly lazy, slightly inattentive, but very, jovial guy sort of panda says, well, every kid should have a father around. I'll be your papa. And it's slice of lifing around with Papa Panda and the occasional extraordinary for a neighborhood thing happens that they have to deal with. So it's basically like, the picture book you grew up with and you always made your parents read you every night, having achieved its peak movie form. Including precursors to other stuff, like Papa Panda's smile is a dead ringer for Tortoro. What else was a precursor? They do the whole town is underwater and it's whimsical and magical plot, like in Ponyo. So yeah, it was like unexpectedly charming. I mean, like Ghibli already had a sort of like, this looks like a picture book you used to read brought to life sort of movie. What was it? The Cat Returns. That's very sort of Sendekian, but like that is, I guess, a solid attempt to be Sendekian, just like the Panda Go Panda, it's called. It was just like so, masterfully lighthearted and funny and charming and stuff. Like I actually thought it was even better. It was like not Seussian, but like more in that vein than Sendekian, just like talking animal, whimsical, slice of life world sort of a book, but like because it's Miyazaki, of course he has his finger so on the pulse of what makes that charming. But that's all I can say without really just going in circles instead of telling you to go watch it.
Yeah, that reminds. I think I've just seen Miyazaki in the news lately, basically cursing about AI art, which not surprising if you know anything about Miyazaki.
Yeah. Just anytime Miyazaki says anything crabapple, the correct response is classic Miyazaki.
Nah, but in general, like he's very anti like technology and all that.
Yeah. Oh, in this
computer.
particular case, I don't think anybody objects to him owning AI because.
Yeah, I don't. The second thing is like I sort of get his take on it, and it's like, yeah, I understand the hate there, but like in general, though, like he like routinely like begrudges, like he's very boomerish, or it's like all these kids and their smartphones on the he's very anti-technology, which is bad in some ways, but also like that's sort of like his nostalgia for like the classic bygone era. Like that's in so many of his films. Like that's sort of the spirit is from that.
Yeah, he's an interesting combination. He's like simultaneously a forward-thinking pacifist and a curmudgeonly, I guess, like you said, boomery sort of these kids today, like, guess which Miyazaki character Miyazaki considers his self-insert? Anybody have a guess?
Wasn't it the I forget the princess from the Bug and whatever one? What's it called?
Well, I'll give you a hint right now. It's a male character.
Oh, it is a male. I don't know because there's so many different things in there.
Yeah. Porco Rosso. The smart aleck curmudgeonly pilot turned into a pig, which, yeah, when you hear that, I'm just like, okay, yeah, that makes so much sense.
Yeah, like that was also like just that's like one of those. I hate to say best, like one of the best Miyazaki films, but I would say it's one of the most charming Miyazaki films because it just very captures that whimsy of anime, and like it's just sort of this random idea, like let's make a pilot a pig, who was basically cursed by this, and but also take it very seriously, but also not.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I don't know what to, like, Miyazaki, he has like his 3 or 4 that are like personal all-time favorite movies of mine, but like even most of the ones past that, like he just so many of them, it's like, okay, about the only thing I can say against them is that they're not one of my personal favorite movies of all time. Like otherwise they are just like masterfully executing what it is they set out to do, that, and to an extent that I can in no way say they're not great movies. Like if he made one of his 2 or 3 that I'm like, okay, maybe that's only borderline great, it was a bad day for Miyazaki. But yeah, and Porco Rosso, I think, is in that category where like it knows exactly what it wants to do. It has like very charming lightheartedness where like the things that are clearly so important to individual characters really aren't that important in the grand scheme of things. But I mean, it's all, yeah, life as it happens to everybody, and it's going to make for great memories someday, and just with dark undercurrents, of course. But yeah, just, I don't know. He seems like he always just knows exactly what he's doing. But I guess we got lost by that tangent and interrupted the Gators. Yes. What he's been up to lately.
I guess, yeah, like aside from that, I really got myself a lot more motivated to watch a lot of the stuff that was served up this spring season. And to be honest, it's been treating me good. It's been treating me so good. Like Shadowverse is back to hopefully conclude everything for the Shadowverse Flame, which I'm like, okay, we can finally end possibly one of the best card game animes ever. After it started as the worst card game anime ever, which that is a sentence and a half. I am just letting you know how the show managed to get back from absolute atrocity is beyond me. Except for the fact that they actually listened to either some critiques or anything else about like some good stuff that was going on in the first season, and just expanded it to the whole of the sequel, giving it to everyone. And we're now just finally into the whole saving the world plot for the anime after 78 episodes. Oh yeah, this anime is 78 episodes, even though the first anime was only 52 episodes. I'm so thankful that it was not the reverse. I don't think anyone could have survived that. But yeah, that's just me, just like just being thankful that Shadowverse is getting a nice little swan song before the new World Beyond game comes out this summer, which I'm waiting for news of. It's gonna be pretty cool.
All right, and then let me see.
Oh yeah, and then also Derek, there's a bit of unfortunate news for you for like an anime that you watched.
Oh, it was the Freerin.
No, Misfit of Demon Academy 2, Season 2, Part 2. Don't watch it. I am just letting you know. The animation got worse. Yeah, Season 2, Part 2 for Misfit of Demon King Academy.
Oh, actually, I don't think I watched that one. I think it was the other demon one I liked. The
Aruma-kun? Oh, Aruma-kun's still
Iruma-kun.
safe. Yeah, Aruma-kun's still great.
Iruma-kun was the one I liked.
Yeah, Demon King Academy is like the One Punch Man for like reincarnated demon lords, basically. And they made CGI dragons look awful, and it wasn't just for one episode. It was for 3 straight episodes.
Yeah, nothing so like. It's weird to say like how just like see one like all bad CGI can just sort of taint a series, but it really can some anime. Like it can be really jarring at times.
I mean, the only other thing you have to hope for right now is just Jobless Reincarnation Season 2, Part 2, and just how well that's going with like its whole marriage plot. Like seriously, people who were dogging on Jobless Reincarnation for all the bad stuff going on in the first part of the first season, and it still happens in the second season, but it's really devoted to like actually showing an unlikable character actually be redeemed while still carrying on some of the bad traits that he had. It's just one of the best isekais ever. No stop. Yeah, that's really all from me.
All right. I think second.
All right. One, a friend of mine might finally have gotten me out of my review hiatus. Well, she's changed her name a few times. Originally it was Kryla Claw, and then now it's Wolfgang, although the channel's called Sapphire Sonic. But yeah, she started showing people some of the dubstep she likes to write, and now her channel is actually like skyrocketing in subscribers. It's already passed up mine. But yeah, before that even happened, she said she wanted to do a crossover to celebrate, and agreed on reviewing her favorite episode, The Main Attraction, which I did already review, but yeah, I found some new things to say about it 7 years later, and especially playing off of her. She's a very unfiltered sort of person in, I think, the best kind of way. Like, it just constantly joyful, gleeful, positive stuff. So looking forward to how this is going to turn out. We've written it and have some fun stuff in there I'm excited to do. So here.
Yeah. It's like, speaking, that's one thing eventually, it was on my to-do list, like sort of launch a new channel myself, but I sort of got like bogged down and haven't done it yet.
Yeah. No, I mean, like, I honestly wonder if I'll ever be back to consistent reviews, because it's just not like it was in the old days. Life has gone in different directions, and I did sort of like burn myself out pretty darn hard, I gotta say. Like, I tried to be back a couple of times, but some things.
I guess I understand that mood of like it's hard to sort of get back on that horse. And yeah, even if you do get on the horse, they sort of YouTube has changed like again, so it's not.
It's not. Yeah. Otherwise, though, trying to train for a little tournament. Still the Tai Chi guy, still trying to keep up with them kids that are getting younger and younger, I tell ya. Younger and fitter. Totally not that I'm getting, older and more complacent. Do like the new training I've been doing, though. I feel like I love this. We'll see.
Yeah.
So I think I've been forcing everybody in this podcast to know about this, despite the fact that I'm one of the few resources there. Yeah. Heavyweight boxing has its first undisputed unified single champion in over 20 years. First one since the Mike Tyson era. Yeah, we had a big fight last Saturday for the title, and between two undefeated guys. One was Alexander Usyk from Ukraine, the cruiserweight champion of the world, in a time where heavyweights have become super giant heavyweights, like a bunch of Goliaths who were able to just stiff arm their way to victory more often than not if a guy was the size that heavyweights used to be during the Muhammad Ali era. So, but yeah, Usyk said, heck with it. I know I'm that damn good. I'm going to win the heavyweight title too. And not only is he about the size of Muhammad Ali, so he kind of fights like him. He's just constantly fluid and graceful and just quick. And a pretty decent punch too, but people forget about that because he's just so constantly good. Just so constantly perpetual motion good. But even though he got through, because he gate crashed the division where there was a bit of a Mexican standoff between undefeated heavyweights with a claim to being the champion, and he swept a couple of them off the stage, but left standing was Tyson Fury, the biggest and the best of the bunch, and the guy who everybody has been saying is going to end up the next all-time great, because, yeah, he took his title. He came in on the last guy everybody accepted was the best in the world, the guy who was big and good, and he just boxed so well he tied that guy in knots instead of using his size to just sit on. Well, no, they were both pretty big, but yeah, he didn't just use his size, he used how good he was. So yeah, suffice it to say, he was the one expected to win, and it was a glorious clash. It was Usyk trying not to get stiff-armed to death, trying to constantly come forward and knock his ears off, but that was going evenly for the first couple of rounds, and then Fury started to make his size known, started to dig in and use those long punches and just show that he was actually as good as Usyk was, even though he was also so much bigger, and dug into his body, put him out to pasture, and then Usyk Falcon punched him and beat the hell out of him all over the ring and won the fight. So yeah, Alexander Usyk, one of the greatest fighters of all time, just completely tore his way through 2 weight classes now because the world makes no sense. So I thought that was cool anyway, but don't worry, I won't force you to pretend you do as well. Otherwise,
It's, in general, I would say boxing is one of those things that seems to come and go, in popularity it seems to go in waves.
Yeah.
to an extent, I don't think anybody disputes the absolute peak was the 70s with Muhammad Ali. It's how he, built himself up larger than life, and then, for sheer entertainment factor, made people watch, and then surprised them again by actually living up to it. So, yeah, that, as the Sandlot put it, he went from a hero to a legend. And the 80s, you had Sugar Ray Leonard down at the lower weight classes making sure people still watched, but the great heavyweight champion in the 80s was Muhammad Ali in slow motion without the charisma. So people had a tough time admitting that he was even admitting that he was pretty damn good in his own right, but yeah, he did not put butts in seats. And then Mike Tyson brought them back to a pretty big extent, but, I mean, there is only one Muhammad Ali era, and then the fact that Mike Tyson didn't win the Mike Tyson era, and instead his childhood friend, who was like the exact opposite of Mike Tyson on a spectrum of how you fight. Mike was explosive and compact and run you over like a wrecking ball, and this guy was huge and long and a chess player, like stiff arm, and he not only was that a very boring result that he won, but he was really not supposed to, and unfortunately Mike got a little too into not training and biting guys' ears off, and of course it was not until like the very end of both their careers, this was like the ultimate splash of cold water on Mike Tyson, like, hey, let's not have these guys fight until the very, very end of both their careers just to see how well both of them have aged. And yeah, you can probably imagine how sad that was, and that ended up being. Like, and then it didn't come back after that either until just now, because the guys who took over for Mike Tyson's friend were like even more boring. Or at least one of them was, the one who ultimately carried the torch the longest. He was like, hey, how can I make this even more chess? I don't want to say it was boring per se, because it was kind of like watching a man get crushed by a glacier to lose to him, but it certainly was not fast-paced.
Which one was this again? I forgot.
Yeah, well, you had Mike Tyson, and then you had as his childhood friend who aged every bit as well as Mike Tyson did poorly. But unfortunately, he was boring and made boxing chess. His name was Lennox Lewis. And then the guy who took over for Lewis were the two Ukrainian brothers who were really big and really good, but the one who was kind of fun ended up coming in and out of retirement due to injury, and the other one, that's the one who was like watching a man get crushed by a glacier.
Oh, gosh.
It's
Actually, guys, I actually have to run. My family is here. I've actually got to go.
Okay. Congratulations.
Speaking of like summer stuff, you have to pick up your family for Memorial Day weekend stuff.
Yeah, actually, they're here, so I've got to actually sign off here. Sorry about that.
All right, no problem.
Okay, good night, everybody.
Take care. But yeah, new review, Second Opinion out of retirement on someone else's channel, training for a tournament, possibly doing family vacation. It's not likely, but maybe try to, introduce Daylover to Kennywood for the first time in her life. That's Pittsburgh's pride and joy as amusement parks go. And we have a fancy new heavyweight champion for the first time in forever. So I'm sure he's going to be almost a big deal for this summer before the world forgets about boxing again.
Yeah, that's actually one thing I want to stop later this year. Probably in August sometime is Kennywood, and visit you and Day while I'm up there. Try to coordinate that.
Well, that'd be cool. Like, that'd be the opportunity to finally show her Kennywood. Have you ever been there before yourself?
Nope.
Okay, so you'll need a guide, and Daylover, with her height sickness, will probably be waiting for us to get back to the ground on a couple of these.
Yeah, but I'm trying to decide if it would be better to try to do that during that KennyCon thing that's coming up, or a less busy weekend. It's like go for the event that's going on, or don't go to an event because it'll be less crowded.
Depends on how good the event is. Right now I have Fridays off. I don't know how readily I can swap that up, but we'll see.
Like I said, that's why I'm leaving it in general like August-y, so we can try to work with all of everyone's schedules.
So works for me.
Mm-hmm. But that's where, I might as well go where I've been up to, unless you have any final things.
Nah, I think that should do it.
All right. But yeah, just to go some things I've been up to before we go into the sort of main topic, which is summer, and yeah, we've sort of covered some of our summer topics. Is well, one is got back to my one sort of first trip of the year. Went to Orlando for the first time in a while, like since I think I was a preteen or at the very least like 13 at the oldest. So yeah, a lot of things haven't changed, but also a lot of things have changed. So yeah, sort of interesting and weird mix of nostalgia and new. And wow, I forgot how much there's a difference between like a 9 and 10 hour trip and road trip and a 14-hour trip. There is a very bit of a difference.
Like, yeah, I used to be very willing to like bite the bullet, drink a lot of coffee, stay up late. Now I'm like, I don't know, I mean, I still do that a lot, but I mean, I can feel it stretching me sometimes. I'm like, am I losing it? Time will tell. Point being, I'm probably going to have to do it again and probably going to be sounding much more like an old man at the end of some of it.
Yeah, it's the main. I mean, if you do literally continuous, I don't think it's that bad. It's like if you make that sort of extended stop midway through or something like that one time for like a dinner or something like that, that sort of makes it feel worse. I found.
Yeah, honestly, you're probably right.
Because like if you just because yeah, that's where also I found an audiobook is very good for those very long trips. But besides that, when I got back from there, I just sort of trying to get back on schedule and all that. Been getting cut back, but some anime I've been watching beforehand. I watched a few series like Shangri-La Frontier. I can't remember if I brought up last time or not. But the one I really loved, to summarize, I watched it, like I started watching it, then I finished it in like 4 days, was Apothecary Diaries. Very interesting series, like sort of mix of like political drama and the not, like it's one of those animes that's in the not China, but very like Chinese court sort of setting. Like, so it's like, so court drama mixed with like murder mystery drama and also medical drama with the main character, which is interesting. Really hard to describe. Very tomboyish, but in a very interesting way. The way to a woman's heart in her case is poison. That makes sense if any of you checks the series out. But besides that, game-wise, I've also been trying to sort of take a mini break between Final Fantasy Rebirth, which is like, well, it's like a 60 to 80-hour RPG. It's like hard to find the time for it, so I took a mini break, which one I watched, played like a mini game of it's called The Liar Princess and The Blind Prince, which is more of a story platformer. It's just it's like a very art direction focused game. It was gorgeous. But besides that, I'm also trying to play get through Hi-Fi Rush before jumping back to Rebirth. And yeah, Hi-Fi Rush is like, this is a very damn good game, even for some people who are very, like me, very rhythm challenged. But yeah, it's a very stylized, what?
Now that's just giving me depression again because it's like, cushy Microsoft for closing down the studio.
Yeah. It's not like I just picked it up because they just closed the studio. Like I actually had it pre-ordered as soon as they announced on PS5. So I just found it was oddly perfect timing and also depressing timing. Yeah. They released this absolute gem of a game. And they're just gonna close it down. Like, I understand the complaints about like the truth. Like the real reason I feel Microsoft is closing them is just because it's literally the only Japanese studio that Bethesda has, and they're not successful like some of the other studios are closing, but like they're not printing money. So it's like if they're making enough money to be like, okay, it's more of a challenge to manage them because they are literally the only Japanese studio Microsoft owns. At the same time, they're not making like they're a very prestige studio, like sort of like they create more critically acclaimed games, but they're profitable, but not like significantly profitable. So I sort of get like the administrative burden it is to sort of have them. But by the same time, they're very successful, like critically game studio they do make their money back and they're not exactly expensive to run. So yeah, it sucks that they're closed, and it's going to even suck more when I finish Hi-Fi Rush and it's like, and I'll be like, oh, I can't wait for a sequel. It's like, oh, that moment's going to really hit, and I already know it.
Yeah, it's kind of like rough, but gotta enjoy the good while you can. That's really all we can say about that.
Yep, I guess that says I move on to the sort of topic of hand, which is summer. We are recording this literally on the border of Memorial Day weekend, so it's a very fitting time to talk about summer break and just sort of like summer plans. This is sort of like the mood of like vacation season and other stuff like that.
Well. Hey. I mean, I guess I did sort of blend this into my warm-up bit with my tournament I'm trying to get ready for. But I don't know about a ton besides that. Delivers still like having to get a license and a permanent residence card, or just permanent residence without the limits now. So yeah, it's probably going to be lots of like applying for stuff and whatnot. But they can't take that one weekend trip to Florida away from us.
Not gonna more than that.
Thank you.
Yeah, that will be probably exhausting, but also a fun trip. And like I said, yeah, definitely look into flights because after the fact, I was looking like, oh yeah, flights to Florida aren't really too expensive. I mean, that might be different now. We're in full-on summer season, so it might be slightly more, but I mean not. But yeah, it's if you can't make the full trip like in one drive, factoring in the extra hotel nights there and back, it might actually be cheaper to just sort of fly in, especially if you pack light.
Oh, hey, I plan to. After all, it does only have to be a couple of days. Yeah, there's just that rough thing, like competing means you do need your extra sweat of clothes that you know are going to be as sweaty as all heck by the time you're done.
As for things to do, yeah, a lot of things that are theme park related, so I don't know. I can't really recommend that much with Day. But do you two like? Let me see what's the word I'm looking for. Escape rooms.
I do. She's a little claustrophobic, but I mean, like,
Oh yeah.
escape rooms are not exactly small. I'd have to ask her about that one.
Yeah, because thinking like experiences that Day could do, and like at the Universal City Walk, which is their shopping center and all that, they have like Universal branded escape rooms, one for like Jurassic World themed and one for Back to the Future themed. If either of those franchises speak to you, because yeah, it's a very high budget like escape room experience and. Because I did that when I was there. It was pretty fun. Luckily, I was paired with a group that actually were more escape room experience because I've never done one before. And it's like, oh, that was Very fortunate I got to pair with the group because there is sort of a rhythm to them, which I sort of could see that after doing it.
Mm-hmm. I've been to one escape room with DB Art, and it was a pretty good time, honestly. We teamed up with the other people who came in, and I don't know if that tipped the scales or not because I really don't remember who did what. But yeah, that was not as good as like Jurassic Park or Back to the Future. So looking to step it up, but yeah, still the weekend. I don't know. I mean, I have a feeling we'll have to be a little bit frugal, but my teacher, he usually finds ways to, deals and write-offs and stuff, usually finds ways to get something fun in there.
As I said, like that was I suggesting more the escape room than the theme park itself because you can't actually go there like after the parking is free after 6 at the Universal City Walk, so you don't have to pay for parking there. And I think it would be about like $50-ish or something like that person, or it depends. And some of this variable, but it's like slight premium for escape room, but like also not. So it's like one of those things.
Not half bad at all.
And then other things in the area, well, I would recommend theme park wise, there's like Legoland, but they are quite expensive. And something that they might like, but that would actually definitely be more in a route because they have nothing really too thrilling there. I don't mean that in a bad way, but I mean more of a very family focused. Let me see. Then there's also Gatorland, not associated with Carlos.
Ooh.
Well, we do have to take him there. Now that you've said it.
I see the mini experience is like there's a fun spot which is sort of like a go-karts, like some thrill rides and all that like place, like fun spot. They're like family owned, like it's like a family entertainment center, but like one with a budget, so it's like a mini theme park. But in the Orlando location, they have like a mini like Gatorland experience. Like basically, here's what a sample of Gatorland for Gatorland proper. So you'll see some gators. I was down in Orlando, and yeah, the main from here, the main one is actually even better because it's like a big on experience. But those were, I'm just trying to name some more family focused things that basically you and they could do. And they're also somewhat budget friendly because I feel Universal or Disney could obviously be day friendly too, as they're not family focused theme parks, but not exactly budget friendly.
Yeah, that is true. Oy. Well, I think I'll put that down on a list and then see about getting to that right after we figure out coordinating going there in the first place.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, so definitely, like us from my experience, is like definitely look into flights and to see if you can, because there are actually some really cheap flights, and after you factor in, because I did the math, it's like for gas alone, it was like $150 of gas to get down there, and back. So it was like,
Dang.
like yeah, and so after that, then also like $100 a night for a hotel. I did like one that was like on the edge of Florida, the edge of Georgia south for my way down, and the edge of Georgia on the way back, the opposite direction. It's like, yeah, might have been cheaper just to fly. Not with the amount of driving, I guess I did. I sort of did need a car, or if I had to rent, but yeah, it's definitely something to consider, especially if you're not moving around. If you're not really moving around too much, where you can basically, if you're going to be like near like I assume it's at the convention center. A tournament?
They usually have it at a like some kind of resort. They find like at the Gaylord, the Hilton. I don't know how they have these connections to do that, but they get them.
But yeah, I was saying if they were more centralized around one space, it actually might be, like I said, cheaper to fly in, especially if the location itself has a shuttle from the airport. But even without like Ubering from their airport to there, and then just like using like buses and all that to get around there, definitely an option to consider.
Like, yeah, just already thinking about how many things I'm gonna have to compare and contrast. Like today's been such a non-stop moving sort of day. I'm like, boy, all right, this is definitely something to look forward to planning out after maybe 10 hours of sleep.
Yeah. But I guess going back to summer stuff is like, yeah, summer does really hit different once you're an adult and like don't get like it really is like the one adjustment is like, yeah, there's not that summer break.
No.
Yeah. Although I tried like looking at the career option where that technically would have continued being a teacher, and yeah, at the moment at least, with how that profession's going on, do not recommend.
Yeah, what is your? Because I know, yeah, you're educated for being a teacher role. Like, what is your like specialty with teaching? I never got to ask that.
Oh, yeah. English and literature. They like language arts, basically. They sort of throw them all together and okay, it's a lie to say no two schools, but many schools have slightly different classes that they set up for that. Some of them cleanly split English and literature into two, some of them do not. You'll even find some blocked classes that sort of have the English teacher and the history teacher collaborate, so it's a lot.
So, like at the grade school, middle school, or high school level, or
secondary, so yeah, middle school, high school.
Right. Yeah, that's where that's why I think they do start to sort of. I don't know. Actually, I think they merge them back. It's one of those weird things. Because I remember
That's what
like when I
happened
was
to
in high
me.
school.
Like they split it into English and literature or reading, whatever they called it in middle school, and then slammed it back together as your English class in high school. But not every high school I saw did that. It was kind of odd.
I think it's just because when they start to focus less on like learning grammar and all that, and more on like that's where they merge them back to just being English is like literature and sort of like the more bigger picture things instead of the grammar, which like I'm still bad. I'm still bad at grammar. Like,
boy,
but
gotten better. Although, like I think they've gotten like teaching it has gotten more precise because I did have English teachers contradicting each other and like broadly surmising a little bit when I was growing up in high school and all that. But yeah, even though I suppose it's all under the same sort of language arts-ish umbrella, like high school classes from school to school, they do change a little bit, slightly different curriculums, slightly different focus.
But actually, that's where I actually started to really. Oh, hell, my minor in college is in creative writing. Though not really. Not very the best choice, probably in retrospect, but I enjoyed it. But that's where I started to really like English more. Where it became more about the literature and less about the grammar, which that is something I still struggle with.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say I'm terrible with because I've thanks to like Twitter and all that, like I've seen truly appalling grammar, so I know I'm not at the bottom level, but still I'm not as good as I know I should be.
Sure. I mean, majoring in it, I did have to drill it into myself a little bit, but I mean, yeah, as having a social media presence, I tend to let myself go fairly slack on it because writing on social media has morphed into just tone as the highest aspiration. Just how can you phrase this in a way that causes the exact emotional reaction regardless of what a professor at Oxford would say about your grammar?
Yeah, I think I'm trying one of the most recent things, like I was for a while I was doing it wrong. Got in a bad habit for a while, like in terms of like grammar example is using the wrong type of brake for like the word brake. Like I was using like the brakes, like car brakes instead of like brake for some things. Like, oh yeah, I've been really messing it up for like 6 months or so.
We're using an ellipsis to signify a pause, a confused or dramatic pause, instead of just this thought will not be finished.
No, just like actual, like the word break, like BREA.
No, I understood that. I was just like throwing out another one, but yeah, there's no shortage of them. Who am I kidding?
Yeah, it's like the good and bad thing about English language as a whole is like, on the one hand, there's hardly any like really strict rules, and on the downside, there's hardly any strict rules. So it's both very flexible, but also not too much foundation to work with. So it's like, yeah.
It's true. But yeah, might have been an interesting career if teachers didn't also have to be besides a pedagogist, a PR manager / amateur psychiatrist / amateur psychiatric diagnosis specialist / lesson creator planner / I'm making myself sad. Let's move along.
But are you still trying to get into teaching, or?
Honestly, right now, like the thing that seems to be going somewhere in a way I could appreciate is teaching Tai Chi. I have somebody who wants to set me up with a class about a half hour from where we live, who's been in the business a while, so yeah, he has connections and locations and all that, but it's a big, all right, can I impress? Can I be a guy worth having in the circle? So stay tuned.
Yep, and now I see why you mentioned your car getting fixed recently. That definitely would help with the. Definitely would help
though. Oh, real nice. As soon as Day gets her license, then she and I will both have one, and I won't have to wake up. Like if she's going to work earlier than I am, I won't have to wake up and drive her there, and then still go to bed later at the end of the day. And to be clear, Daylover has a license. It's just the United States does not accept a Danish driver's license.
Which ironically, as I recall, the European licenses are much more strict to actually get.
Yeah, probably too. Anybody
good
see
luck
that?
With the,
what?
I said good luck for the day for getting that license, and
Thank you. We have the easier to drive car back now, so see how much of a difference that makes. Anybody see the Knuckles the Echidna show?
I've seen clips, not the full thing. I was actually surprised about how much of a developed show it was. I mean, for a while I thought people were joking. It was like a joke. It was like, oh shoot, they actually was a real show. When I see like it fully in, it was like, oh, this is actually happening. It basically got the gosh, what was that one guy from the Suicide Squad? Google it just because it's important enough to remember. Peacemaker.
John Cena?
Yeah. I was like, yeah, you didn't know that was a spinoff of the Suicide Squad movie?
So, oh, you mean, I didn't know that. I thought I thought this was still connected to Knuckles. You were saying it's
I was saying like how like the Knuckles is sort of a spin-off of the Sonic movies. Like that's sort of what happened with like it reminded me of, like Peacemaker was spinning off from Suicide Squad. It was like it's like oh here's this like actiony movie, then here's this like the side character getting his own spin-off thing that's fully budgeted. And,
like about as good as the original thing was.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, also speaking of Sonic, is like that's not it's out of summer season. I think in November, but no, actually, isn't it December? The third Sonic movie is coming out.
Something like that. And they're saying Jim Carrey's gonna be back for it, so heck yeah.
And my reaction is like there was doubt about that? Question mark? Because
I mean, he did say he like was feeling a heck of a lot like retirement right about after the second Sonic movie, which it's kind of funny because the way he talked about working on the first one, he's like, heck yeah, having a little silly fun, getting to improvise. Just seems like it was an easy, fun role for him. So I didn't know because he said like, oh, maybe I'd be back if somebody like showed me this script just dipped in gold, but otherwise I'm kind of which. So, okay, I guess Sonic is still easy and fun to do after all.
Yeah, that's one thing is because he seemed to be having too much fun with that role. So it's like, because you can tell some actors they're doing it for the budget, and then some actors are really just like the role and just continue to do it. That's the vibe I got from him from like Eggman. Like that seems to be like the role he had the most fun with in the past few years.
Yeah, and December 20th is where Sonic 3 is coming out.
Yeah, so yeah, quite past December season, which oddly enough, I feel like the winter movie season has become more interesting than the summer movie season.
Really? Maybe so. I have to look at what's coming out. I've really not stayed up on that lately.
One thing I don't want to see is I do want to see the Furiosa movie probably next Tuesday or so. Because it's like, I would prefer like a more of a. Was it Matt Damon who was in the recent Mad Max one? I'm trying to remember.
So, you mean Tom Hardy in Mad Max?
Tom Hardy, yeah, that's it. Yeah. I would have actually probably preferred a more direct like sequel or prequel with him in it because he did that real well. But at the same time, this movie oozes like the that recent Mad Max formula, and so it's like, I definitely want to see it with Furio.
Yeah, I mean, I'm wondering if that's like George Miller's solution, like compromise with himself, like because no Mad Max movie is the same as the last one. The closest is probably Fury Road and the Road Warrior, so Mad Max 2 and 4, like he brought it back and he followed the, to an extent anyway, followed the blueprint from what is the most popular of the original Mad Max movies. So, I don't know, there was a sense in every one of the original ones that he was trying to take Max somewhere, and I don't know, bringing him back, I don't know if he'd be content forever after to just do like, all right, now Max has another The Road Warrior type adventure. But how Furiosa came to be, like, that's a story that sure as hell can be that.
Yep, so I am looking forward to that, which I think it came out just now. I just wait till Tuesday because cheaper. I go through let me see, what's it called? Regal Cinema, and they do like a cheaper tickets and half price popcorn on there Tuesdays. So that's where I pretty much always have been going to my movies the past like year or so. It's like, you know what? I really don't need to see it opening day.
Yeah, I think that'd be my solution too.
But yeah, anyway, yeah, going back to topic, summer season and movie blockbusters I know has been struggling recently, but also going back for the big thing with the Sonic 3 is like, Keanu Reeves, that will be interesting to look forward to. Shadow.
Keanu Reeves as Shadow. That's going to be something. But yeah, Knuckles.
Yeah.
I don't know. Knuckles is like yet another example of how this franchise, instead of ditching the formula of, okay, these characters, they come to the quote-unquote real world and they have adventures with some A-minus list Hollywood star who is like their escort. Instead of ditching that formula, Sonic's play seems to weirdly be, more often than not at least, to correct it. Which, I don't know if that's as good as just like, yeah, coming up with the, I don't know, Mario-esque, just what we wanted to see, just do the video game as a movie, but it's interesting that it's able to do that. Like Sonic 1, James Marsden as the cop, like he's there to be Sonic's escort, but like instead of just the guy to, yeah, say the lesson of the day at Sonic and drive him around and like be humiliated with lots of comedy, like every other time they put James Marsden in that role, he's the cop who can like actually help in a fight and actually use his badge to accomplish things and like plausibly be an ally worth having on this trip. And not only that, like a lot of his comedy and a lot of his charisma, his not charisma, well, that too, but chemistry with the other characters is actually pretty good. And now Knuckles takes his sidekick from the movie, movies, plural, a character who you'd think would be even harder to do this with because it's the most annoying type of character to pair the people we're here for with, the kind who's a bumbling doofus and gets everything wrong and is just there for fail comedy. Yeah, I don't know, just like I'm watching Knuckles like picking out every single moment that would usually be annoying, and instead they tweaked just enough so that it's not. Like what episode?
That's on Paramount, isn't it?
Uh-huh.
All right. Which actually, that reminds me of it. Like, I forgot the news. That's actually, I think, one of the bigger news stories, which has even gone under the radar for me. But yeah, it's like, oh yeah, it sort of seems to be happening is, yeah, Sony Pictures seems to be wanting to buy Paramount.
Interesting. Really? I mean, let's see. Sony versus Paramount. So, like, what are Sony's biggest flagship titles these days? Franchises?
Like Ghostbusters, they did the Spider-Man films, it's like they do a lot of variety of stuff. They're one of the studios that seem to be sort of stuck in like the more classical Hollywood formula in terms of like making like just sort of pet, like a variety of pet projects and all that. It's like weird to describe. Like, and compared to other studios which are more like very franchise focused.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like, I don't know, their interesting relationship with Disney where they're like, oh, we want some of that franchise money too, and Disney's like, well, if it gets us what we want, but the second we can make you, you're gonna give it here. Otherwise, though, oh yeah, I was saying, like, the key to Knuckles' success. Like, episode 2, they have the bumbling comic relief guy who Knuckles has decided is his apprentice. He has to rescue him, and he shows up, and they wait no time at all to get to the fail where his plan completely collapses around him, and he launches himself through a window, and yeah, the bad guy then just goes up to finish him off to, yeah, I guess complete the joke, and then he takes on the bad guys and defeats them in a very him way that doesn't even not make sense. It was like, okay, you guys just kind of pulled off a scene that I thought I by definition hated, so well done. Oh, and side perk, it has Carrie Elways as one of the villains, the I guess closer to comic relief one, but like the side villain, yet also the most personal one as comic relief's guy's long lost father.
Now, is this one like they do in the Netflix style release where it's like everything at once, or the like weekly release?
I think it was everything at once, but it's a moot point now since it's been out for a minute and it's all released.
Because yeah, everyone seems to be experimenting with which one. I think I can even think Amazon's like doing both. I think with certain series where it's like somebody release everything at once, other times they like release half of it at once. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The streaming wars are going to get very interesting because everything seems to be collapsing in towards consolidation and not cable. Like it's not cable, but sort of is cable again.
Yeah. This is why we can't have nice things.
Unfortunately.
Well, time will tell.
Yeah, time will tell indeed.
So let's see. What else is good? Well, here's the one thing that keeps happening that's weird is like some franchises keep getting split down the middle between streaming services. Like first half the James Bond movies were on one and half were on the other. And now I think all the Star Trek movies are on Max and all the Star Trek shows are on Paramount Plus.
Yeah, because I think Paramount owns all of the rights to Star Trek, but I guess I can't remember who made the movies or how that was licensed because I'm trying to remember if like who made because the recent movies might have been made by Warner Brothers. I don't know why I'm asking. I can just quickly Google that.
Mm-hmm.
Start Star Trek here. One restoration films. All right, who made that? Nope, Paramount. So they must have just been licensing and film the movie rights out to Warner Brothers and Max.
Well, I guess doesn't not make sense. Like if the movies weren't pulling their weight, but it is kind of annoying.
And it's weird, like that they like you would think it. The way it makes sense is like that you could see it on both Paramount and Max, but the way you describe it is not that. So, yeah. Well, it's a little late now, so it's just that my mind's a little sleepy, so it's a lot less focused. But yeah, the one thing I will say is like from Paramount and also Paramount Plus and also Star Trek. The one thing has actually caught my eye recently, at least through a lot and many YouTube clips, is like Lower Decks. That show seems to be pretty awesome, actually.
Oh yeah, the one. The animated one, right? About like a C-tier Star Trek crew having their misadventures and growing together.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, that like apparently, I just I work with someone who is a huge Star Trek fan, like lifelong, and he says that modern Trek is about as good as Star Trek has ever been. Even though I think he said Next Generation may always be his favorite of the bunch. Yeah, Lower Decks, and actually, one of the modern Star Trek shows, like, I think I might have told the story before about the original pilot of Star Trek. Yes, no, maybe.
Not sure yet.
It was rejected for being too cerebral, and Lucille Ball, as I love Lucy, Lucille Ball, she spoke up on Star Trek's behalf to the network, said she believed in Gene Roddenberry's vision, so they let him make a second pilot, but the guy playing the original captain, he opted out. Gene Roddenberry's wife, who was playing the sort of cold, logical person on the ship, like, I guess she got like mixed reviews for her performance, which might have been a little unfair, but okay, so they took her out, put her back in as Nurse Chapel, and made Spock, who had been like very youthful and enthusiastic in the original pilot, instead he was the cold, logical character. So yeah, a lot of different stuff. And then eventually they took the footage of that original pilot, now that, yeah, the captain was Kirk and Spock was cold and logical, and they made a story about, okay, actually that original captain, that really did happen, and he was Kirk's successor, and now he got promoted and played hero in the right place, wrong time, and is now confined to a wheelchair and unable to move or speak, and the only thing that can make his life better is what happened to him on that mission many years ago. So, aka the original pilot. So, yeah, an episode where Spock, who was once a loyal, enthusiastic underling of this captain, decides he's going to take charge, whether he has permission or not, and save this guy's livelihood. And the story of why he needs to go there to do that is being told on a video screen, so aka the original pilot, which nobody had ever seen because it was unaired, so yeah, grand old excuse to show that. But the long story short and how that connects to original Star Trek is that pilot has now been picked up after all. They decided they're going to tell us the story of that original captain and young Spock and cold, logical lady played by Gene Roddenberry's wife and all of the above.
Yeah, because I actually have been heard from like Star Trek fans that apparently it's very good. Like apparently like Picard wasn't really that good, or at least the first season wasn't. But like all the other adjacent Star Trek material that came out around the same time was apparently received a lot better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the general reaction, like same friend from work, the reaction I heard to Picard was like, okay, I love Patrick Stewart, so I mean, of course I'm gonna like this, and I mean, I can't deny that on some level it's undeniably good, but this is the one that feels the most like it was made because Patrick Stewart came forward and said, hey, can we make this? And they just couldn't say no to him.
Like, yeah, I've heard it's fundamentally, like for a lot of fans, like it really doesn't feel like traditional Star Trek. It's sort of, it's been a while, but yeah, I've heard, not good things. Like I've heard, like overall though, like you're saying, like it is a very good time for Star Trek, which is weird. Like oddly successful, like hallmark of the Paramount Plus, which doesn't really have much other stuff besides Yellowstone.
Sounds about right. And now the Sonic stuff.
Mm-hmm. Which makes me curious because I haven't really looked much into that, like, because I was on vacation when the deal apparently started to go, with the rumors go through with it. But yeah, like Sony's trying to buy Paramount, which is like for like 20 something billion. It's like they're financing it with another company involved, like a venture capital for like the loan. So yeah, it's like they're committed, or at least they were committed to it, but what is the value they see in it necessarily? Because Sony doesn't want to get into streaming because they they actually like their big business model is actually selling pretty much their stuff to other stuff, which yeah, people know about Sony Pictures from like their Spider-Man films and Men in Black and stuff like that, like their Ghostbusters and like their Columbia Pictures brand. But they also are very well known for their TV production is actually rather large too. They're the ones who did Breaking Bad. And yeah, and they're also doing like their TV production stuff. I don't know how involved they were with the Last of Us show because I think that was more HBO specific on their production side. But yeah, Sony does license out their TV production to a lot of other people. They're essentially making a lot of money off of selling their stuff to other streaming platforms, which I think it's partially because like they actually tried to do their streaming stuff before streaming became big. With if you ever heard of a website called Crackle, it did not do well. It still exists in some form, but like their attempt to be a streaming thing did not do well. So they basically backed out of it before the streaming wars began and sort of profited from selling their stuff to everyone else.
Yeah, sounds about right. Oh, they're still standing all right.
Yeah, this was originally the topic was about summer break, but we're sort of very off topic this time.
Yeah, about the things we want to watch during the summer break, I suppose.
That was some of the spin-offs. Yeah, like if we're here, like summer blockbusters are not doing very well right now, and it doesn't. The outlook's not very good this year.
Yeah, it wasn't very good last year either. It seems like something just sort of fundamentally changed in the pandemic. Like people are, well, that and combined with streaming services, people are starting to think they'd really just rather stay home.
Well, last year seemed to be defined by very strong either hits or misses. Like there were some very successful films, like Universal did pretty well with both their big anime films last year. Like both Mario did stupidly well, but also the Spider-Man film did well too, which it was the more pure summer film, and then there was the Barbieheimer combo that did extremely well as well.
Yeah, like, I mean, it wasn't a case where, like, all ships fall with the tides, but I mean, if I had to take my stab at it, I'd say it was like people consolidating around certain ones, and instead of maybe seeing as many movies as they would have, just sort of letting the other ones die. Like, heck, Mission Impossible lost money, which seemed like after the last few that was really accomplishing the impossible.
Yeah, it seemed to be I'm trying to remember the specific because I'm both tired and it's also been a year, but I think big event and sort of air quote original, what's like Mario isn't original, but is the first of its series. Like big event films and did very well, but like franchise stuff, like a lot of the Marvel stuff that wasn't
Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, everything that wasn't Guardians of the Galaxy did very poorly. I'm trying to remember some of the other stuff that came out. Like you said, Mission Impossible didn't do well. Pixar's
Indiana
continues
Jones
to suffer.
Awful.
Yeah, and
what was that? I know Pixar tried to put Soul back in theaters after how bad they treated it, and they got a big lesson on how you can't go home. But I do know Elemental made a surprise comeback to become kind of the sleeper hit of the summer. Like,
yeah, they did not. Yeah, they did not let the theaters get rid of it, and eventually made its money back. Which honestly, of the recent Pixar films, like that's one I really want to go and I would have probably wanted to see in theater, but sort of missed it at the time. And then like I think the rumors that they with what's the word I'm thinking for, something to Inside Out 2 has some hope that it would be the most successful Pixar film in the past few years, but that bar is very, very low theatrically.
Yeah, this was Pixar reading the room for a sequel. I think everybody did actually feel like they could go for, like, okay, yeah, what happens when you take this concept and apply it to the next phase of life, puberty, and I think some of the early material is already, like, reminding people that they kind of love Riley.
Which I'm curious how this film would do, because I don't think it'll be like, it's not going to be a Buzz Lightyear or what was the other? I'm trying to think of the other. Yeah, it won't be a Buzz Lightyear. Where just.
Oh, you mean Strange New Worlds or whatever? Well, that's not Pixar, but that was Disney.
That's just trying to remember some of the. Yeah, because some of the things I'm trying to remember some of them, but I don't think it'll be like a Buzz Lightyear. I feel it will be successful. Period. I just say that, but I don't know if it'll be like Inside Out 1 successful. Because didn't that one make $1 billion or near $1 billion or something?
These animated movies do sort of all blur together in like their massive success, don't they? Inside Out made $858.8 million on a $175 million budget.
Yeah, like I question if it'll be able to match or like the original success, but I do feel like it will be successful. That's why I'm curious, because I could see it actually potentially getting near that if it's everything like hits. But it's one of those things, like it really depends how it does, like how good it is, and how like that's why I said I really don't know how well that would do. I could see it doing like 300 million, or I could see it doing like 800 million. It really depends, like how it's. I don't know how it would do.
Yeah, this is one where like the legit goodwill left over from Inside Out 1 could really matter.
But at the same time, if it's just like basically a hash out, like this bad sequel, it could do very poor. Like could do half as well as the original. Just because like the box office, like Disney's really like outside of their other things, like they've really cheapened the value of Pixar's theatrical like brand recognition, which that will take years to recover from.
Sure. Makes you wonder, like, okay, how much money are they making from Disney Plus? Because I mean,
they aren't making
they
money.
haven't like hardline reversed on it, but I mean, yeah, does that? I mean, I'm sure it doesn't make up for what's happening at the box office, but yeah, what does it do? Like, is the reason that Disney Plus hasn't either been scrapped or like radically morphed already because they quietly like it more than they are letting us realize, or what?
Yeah, like to be clear, like the original plan, like going back to be pre-pandemic and all that, like was for Disney Plus to be profitable sometime in 2024. By all accounts, they're not going to be able to make that goal. So yeah, it's not profitable at all. It's actually losing them billions every year, and so it's like their overall deal is to sort of do the Netflix route, was like lose a lot of money for like a few years, but like eventually get enough ground they can actually be very profitable, which I think Netflix actually reported like their record profit recently or something like that. They're doing well right again. They did bad, but they're barely doing well again. Netflix specifically, but the other streaming services are not. So like Disney's goal overall was like, to sort of just, again, I don't know how they're lost so much money, because like they were literally for the first few years during the pandemic and all that, they were losing billions a year, and I was just confused how they could be losing that much on mostly a lot of it content they already own.
Makes you want to give up on trying to keep track of it sometimes.
But yeah, that was like the thing is like, like Disney made a lot of, under Bob Chapek and also Bob Iger, questionable decisions, but on a very specifically bad decision, I feel is like they made Pixar too much of a Disney Plus brand, which they should have put more effort to not cheapen that value of that brand, because before it was like pandemic, Pixar was freaking on fire brand. It was, people went to theaters for Pixar, and now people consider it like they consider it like a Disney Plus brand, which is disappointing.
Yeah. It's like we had, because I mean, we had at least a couple of Pixar like masterpieces that lost money being just, or were just thrown directly onto Disney Plus almost, and like never even got a fair stab at it. Soul, even Turning Red, if you want. Did Onward just kind of bomb, or did they Disney Plus that to pieces as well?
They blamed it on the pandemic, but then in general, that movie would have probably bombed even without the pandemic, because that came out like literally, that was like the last one before a pandemic went from like, oh yeah, we should watch this, to like, yeah, everything's shutting down. That came out like the same, like I think it was like March, like that was when Onward came out. But yeah, that would have probably been the first Pixar bomb in a while since like The Good Dinosaur. That was,
Yeah.
But they were overall so successful. Like my main idea is like I'm too tired to sort of make this argument and discussion, because it's a very deep discussion. But like, I feel like Disney really did a disservice to Pixar by doubling down how much they put Disney on, basically using Pixar to add value to Disney Plus, but that had the downside of basically devaluing Pixar as a theatrical thing, which everyone was putting their theatrical stuff to their streamer they were pushing at the time during the pandemic, which is understandable. But Disney really doubled down and not putting stuff back in theaters, or like having like both theatrical and streaming release at the same time. So they really made their brand associated with streaming, which sort of devalued it. Like Red and oh gosh, what was the fish one called?
Luca.
Yeah, Luca.
They didn't even pretend
Luca,
those were going to be like box office successes. They just like basically set out front. These are Disney Plus movies.
No, they were going to like release them to theaters. That was going to be Pixar's return to theaters. Then there's like, oh yeah, there's another pandemic surge, and like, oh no, we're taking them, like we're not even releasing in theaters. We're pulling them from theaters, and it's going stuck on Disney Plus. Like, oh gosh, you idiots! It seems like they're trying to be very protective of like the one, also trying to get money to Disney Plus and like, hey, add value by having these Pixar films released here, but also I feel they're trying to be protective of like the box office like numbers of Pixar. Like they don't want to have like oh yeah, we're releasing in pandemic time, of course we're only going to make like 100 million at the box office. Other studios were always like, yeah, we're still going to do that just to sort of keep the box office alive. While Disney was just like, we're not, was both protective and damaging at the same time of Pixar. Like we don't want to show Pixar making under 200 million at the box office, but at the same time add value to Disney Plus by having theirs. Like I feel they really trying to have their cake and eat it too. Basically, gave them food poisoning. Is a sort of weird way to describe it.
Yeah, well, at this present point in time, Elemental is still by far the most recent Pixar release, which I hope demonstrates that there's at least some public goodwill towards Pixar itself left, because it seems like they have a couple interesting ideas on their upcoming schedule, not just Inside Out 2. They have an original one called, how would you pronounce this? Ilio.
I think that was pushed back because because I think at their most recent pairing, they're really doubling down on like sequels. I think they're having a new Toy Story coming out in the
Toy
works, and like
Story
yeah, they're.
5. Boy, is that going to be an interesting day.
Mhm. Yeah, they seem to be really, as they're called, trying to double down on that basically because Disney stock wasn't doing well. So let's give what stockholders want, like good sequels and all that. It's like, yeah, but when Pixar was really good and king of the box office, they could really do one-offs and like people would come. You got to work to try to reestablish that.
Boy, I mean, it's got to be influencing their decision, that Toy Story 4 still made over $1 billion. So, where will they go with Toy Story 5? Will they undo Toy Story 4's ending and be called cheap cop-outs, or will they double down on the new direction and have everybody say, all right, so why did we even need to hear about this? Why did we even need this?
Yeah. But yeah, otherwise, other studios are doing somewhat good, at least animated wise. Like Kung Fu Panda actually did Kung Fu Panda 4 actually did surprisingly well at the box office. As I recall, I think it's still actually doing well at the box office. And that one was I seen that film and it's like it was good, but you could definitely tell it was like made at a budgeted period of during the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
Like they have like the Furious 5 is there, but they will not speak at all for some reason. It's not like they have to pay their very high budget voice actors.
That was like, oh, come on, somebody can do a Jackie Chan impression. Voice actors are underrated as is.
Yeah, that's like they worked themselves in a foot. But actually, I did like it. Like it was at the same time. It reminded me of like Shazam 2, where it's like you could sort of tell this is made on a. It's like okay, like you can do what you want, but like this is sort of made out with the budget that it could be sort of. You could tell the budget of it was made in a way where it could go directly to streaming as a write up, but it was an option. You could tell that Shazam 2 and Kung Fu Panda 4 was like you could tell this was made where it was like we're going to go for theater, but like in case things go awry, we could send this straight to streaming but still be successful. I'm really tired, so I'm like I actually have a lot of thoughts on these Hollywood decisions, but I can't really focus right now.
All right, so stay tuned for the future podcast. It will get far more biting and Hollywood attacky.
Both attacky, but also like it really is a very interesting discussion what was happening with from like a very like sort of scientific level, like what's happening with Hollywood, because I think Hollywood, like I'm hearing stories like they're really sort of freaking out like about their box office run recently, which again there are successes like Kung Fu Panda actually fairly well. Let me see let me do the box office successes of the year so far. Because I don't think Kung Fu Panda is the biggest right now. Dune 4, let's see. Worldwide box office, sort of the big four successes so far are Dune Part 2, which made over 700 million, Godzilla: The New Empire, which made over 500 million, and Kung Fu Panda 4, which is at just below that at like 530 million. It's like, yeah, that sort of had the elemental effect of like it really had long legs on that. Then there's a big drop off to like just over 200 million, which is for Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, but that is also more recently.
Yeah, brand new almost. It's leading the box office. So we'll see with that one. It's interesting that there's still enough goodwill towards that franchise, which I still need to catch back up on, actually.
So honestly, it seems like there's fairly good success, but at the same time, not the pre-pandemic like 10 billion plus breaking movie like a year thing. Yeah, we're
Hollywood.
far from that. Seems we're far from those days, but at the same time, like it's comparable to like the things right before that period.
Yeah, maybe it could work its way back up again, or at least hit that equilibrium of just before.
But yeah, I know people are going to say inflation will sort of devalue that, which is true, but at the same time, we still have to work our ways up, and there's a lot of ways to monetize films. Like since everyone has a streaming thing, like if they're making like 500 million on a film and also having big streaming parade with it when they release it there, that is making some money. So, especially if they can get their budget under control again, which that's sort of Disney's biggest problem is like some of their movies have like stupidly high budgets.
Yeah, I think that was one of the criticisms of last summer where everything was all disaster and bombs. Like, okay, well, that wouldn't be the case if y'all weren't just like so careless with your budgets. Like some of these are making money that would have been a perfectly acceptable gross if not for the fact that you have these exorbitant budgets.
Yeah, I think the Marvel like was particularly bad for that because like everything was like almost everything I think was like over 200 million and like not really showing it. Like Ant-Man, and it's like, yeah, you really didn't need that much of a budget for Ant-Man.
So probably, yeah. But they have to start tightening up, among other things.
Yeah, I feel both tighten up, but then once you get your footing, and then you can sort of get a little bit more crazy. It's like again, you have to sort of work yourself up.
Because whether we like it or not, we took a hit.
Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, or fortunately, both in good and bad ways, yeah, I think there's new reports that we are probably going to hit the recession-ish period sometime in July. It's supposed to be hitting, so
What, like next
maybe
month?
that hammer will finally hit.
Really?
As I say, it's both good and bad. Like bad for jobs and all that, but also possibly good for getting interest rates and like inflation under control if we finally hit a recession. One of those things like it's bad, but also might help.
Well then.
Yeah, we are really off
yeah,
topic.
I think I might be.
This is very. Yeah, this has been a very off, even for us, very off topic and off the rails podcast discussion.
Yeah, this is where talking about summer movies can go. Movies are a bit of a vortex of conversation.
And it wasn't even summer movies with the topic. It was just summer in general, like summer vacation plans and all that. And then it got into summer movies, and then it turned into movies. And yeah, I'm not complaining. This is the off the rail things I enjoy with everyone here.
Here. What might have set us up there is Daylover and I honestly only have so many plans. Like, hey, let's do this because it's summer. Because this is still a very like settle down and get set sort of period for us.
And that goes back to the like summer means something different after you get out of the college age or school age and summer breaks and all that. Then it becomes just like, oh yeah, it's just here working season still, but also hot.
Yeah, just about.
Which, yeah, considering how like as I get older, I start to hate winter more and more. I still sort of appreciate that like summer season in a different way.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I was ever that fond of winter to begin with, especially when it became the high school wrestling season, the season of never ever seeing the sun and my hands drying out like sandpaper.
Yeah, it's like December, like the Christmas season, like there is just such charm there. It sort of makes up for it being winter. But like January and February and like March even, it's like yeah, this is the not much to do except for pray that there isn't that much snow on the road when you have to drive to work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can't say there's much about winter in those months where it just is sort of dragging on that I'm fond of.
Yeah, I've long since made the joke that Valentine's part of the reason we sort of embrace Valentine's so much is because we need something in between that winter. Uh,
Yeah, I have a running theory that Thanksgiving is going to get smaller and Valentine's Day is going to get bigger. Just like because of marketability.
yeah, part of the problem with Thanksgiving is not just that Christmas is getting bigger, but also just because uh, Halloween's just gotten so freaking huge.
Yeah. Boy. Yeah, I mean, I think like everybody always talked about marketing taking over holidays and whatnot, but I mean, at least for Halloween and potentially going forward, it might start to become like bona fide true.
Yeah, because it's like sort of it's hard to objectively judge because I remember Halloween's like, oh yeah, it was more kid focused, but like it's sort of like I've been saying for a few years, it seems more of an adult holiday now, and but also sort of a wide season. Like yeah, like everyone jokes about like pumpkin spice season and all that, but like yeah, like there's just so much to do in that besides just Halloween and like Halloween season and like I know like theme parks are my thing, but like haunts and all that are extremely like some of the most crowded times of all season is like Halloween and like haunts during like the weekends of like October and September are like some of the most busy parks will be. Like Universal's like they're known for their Halloween horror nights. They're advertising their haunts like months in advance. They just started rolling that out. The only reason they're sort of slightly behind schedule roll like because they sometimes start advertising in like May and April, but they're only reason they delayed that is because they have like an entire theme park they're opening next year that there's also advertising for.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Boy, you should see
yeah, they're
Fright
just
Night at
like
Kennywood.
yeah. Which like yeah, I just did like a behind the scene tour of like haunt like maze in like Kings Island, and it's like wow. I never did the haunt like houses themselves, like going through in a day. Like, there's a lot of budget for a regional park I can see in here.
This is true.
It's like oh, I didn't from what I've seen from the outside, I didn't expect to see this much budget from like our local regional park. It's like, and then I've seen like videos like that what Universal is like. Dear goodness, like they will literally throw millions at each individual house. And then there's licensing and all that. Like, oh, yeah, it's like such big business. But I'm not like complaining either because I enjoy that. Like October is like probably my favorite like month, either October or December, and December just because of Christmas season fully. Like that is 100% what it is. But like October is like in general just the Halloween and autumn mood is so good.
Mm. But favorite months is tough. I don't know. Really. I mean, I guess a lot of good stuff tends to happen around the May-June season for me, so maybe about where we're at. Although, but now even as I say that, I'm already thinking of good times elsewhere, so genuinely don't know. Or I might
Oh
just
yeah,
be
for
too
me,
tired to think of it.
yeah, I'm very tired. Like I said, I sort of start rambling right now because I'm so tired, so I didn't really notice it. But like yeah, I would have a lot more coordinated thoughts and like the movies and all that. But yeah, going back to summer plans, yeah, that is sort of my travel season. But so I do have a few road trips planned, but like yeah, it is also not at the same time my favorite season, even though I do a lot of travel during it.
Mm-hmm. So that's just something else to take the title.
Yeah, summer interesting season, like very vacationy, but I think since everyone in this podcast is not in college or any sort of school anymore, it's not having the same weight as it used to.
Them good old days. In the meantime, though, I think I might have to turn in.
Yeah, me too, because I'm very much on the border of passing out.
But it's good seeing y'all.
Good hearing from y'all.
Alright, we might have lost Gator for good, but in case you're listening right now, it's good to see you too. Have a good night.
Mm-hmm. Good night. Uh-oh. Well, Carlos, if you're listening, I mentioned like worrying about the batteries of my mouse dying. It died right when I was trying to stop and recording. So this part will be edited out, but funny coincidence.